Good evening and thank you for being with us. Another federal party leader is coming to Thunder Bay. It's now been confirmed that the NDP's Jagmeet Singh will make a campaign stop at Lakehead University. He's scheduled to visit the Study Coffee House inside the Student Center building at 7 o'clock on Friday evening. The event is open to the public. From there, the NDP leader is believed to be heading to Kenora on Saturday morning, although that's not yet been confirmed. Singh will become the second party leader to come to Thunder Bay during this election campaign after Liberal Justin Trudeau held a rally at the LU Outpost last Wednesday. Singh's last visit to the city came in late July when he met with local union officials at Bombardier and also supporters at the Da Vinci Centre. The NDP leader was in Vancouver today and has spent the last 8 days campaigning in British Columbia.
Meantime, tonight we continue our look at the candidates running in Thunder Bay Rainy River. For the last 4 years, the Liberals have held the riding under Don Rusnak, and now the party's new candidate, Marcus Pulowski, is hoping it stays that way. Ben Nesbitt has more in tonight's candidate profile.
For Liberal candidate Marcus Pulowski, politics wasn't always on the radar, but with so much at stake in the upcoming election, the 59-year-old couldn't pass up the opportunity to potentially represent Thunder Bay Rainy River for the next 4 years.
If I didn't have 5 kids, it'd be a little easier to ignore politics. But elections matter, and there's potentially a lot of implications of this election on all of us.
Whatever Pulowski lacks in political experience, he certainly makes up for it with education. Born and raised in Thunder Bay, before leaving home to obtain law degrees from the University of Toronto and Georgetown, as well as a health policy degree from Harvard. It's an academic resume he feels gives him a great advantage.
I think that you want someone with the education and the intellectual tenacity to kind of figure out the problems. Because once you figure out the problems, then I think you can start looking at the solutions.
As an emergency room physician at the Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Center, Pulowski sees some of the city's most glaring issues on a daily basis.
Violence and substance abuse in this community, these are big problems, and it's something you see every day in an emergency room. There's no quick fix to this problem, but I think it's really something that the 3 levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal, have to work together to try to solve.
And as for his first order of business, if elected,
I would say the number 1 priority, and I say it's the number 1 priority because there's a timeline on it, is Bombardier. And the potential 550 layoffs coming in Bombardier. This is an important matter, obviously, for the people in Bombardier, but for the economy as a whole.
Ben Nesbitt, TBT News.
Tomorrow we'll hear from the Conservative candidate in that riding, Linda Ridholm.
Still with the Conservatives, a report in the Toronto Star suggests Ontario Premier Doug Ford is growing increasingly more upset with Justin Trudeau's mentions of him during this campaign. The Liberal leader has been dropping Ford's name, suggesting that provincial government cuts to health care and education would be the same under a federal government run by Andrew Scheer. The Star cites an unnamed Conservative insider who says it's not in Ford's nature to sit back and let someone take shots at him. The Ontario government took an extra long summer recess this year and will not return to Queen's Park until after the federal election.
Meanwhile, the Ford government is getting a positive response from many northern anglers and bait trappers after it unveiled revisions to their proposed bait fish rules this week. The rules encompass the movement of minnows, both purchased and personally caught, along with bait management zones and changes to commercial bait licenses. It's all an attempt to protect ecosystems from invasive species. The changes come less than a year after the province held consultations with local stakeholders in the bait business. Christine Lindsay Hewitson, who co-owns 2 bait shops, was a part of those talks, and she says it's apparent the ministry officials listened to their concerns.
It looks good. They've changed the zone area so that we can purchase from various locations. We're not limited now like we were earlier. So that's a step in the right direction. As far as the log books and the harvesters books, the dealers and the harvesters are doing all we can to keep out the invasive species, and we keep track, and M&R keeps track of us.
However, she says allowing the public who trap their own minnows to be exempt from M&R training is not going to help the invasive species issues. John Kaplanis with the Northwestern Ontario Sportsmen's Alliance agrees that the province's latest proposal to have 2 instead of 4 bait fish zones in Northern Ontario will be much easier for area outfitters to deal with.
A Winnipeg man is lucky to be alive following a bear attack north of Kenora. Dave Schwab was walking near his cabin in the Rice Lake area last week when the animal suddenly attacked, leaving the 69-year-old Schwab in a fight for his life. Mike Arsenault has details.
Well, that's so nice of you.
Dave Schwab is grateful to be alive. The 69-year-old is an experienced hiker who was walking near his cabin northwest of Kenora. He noticed a black bear in the bushes. The bear noticed him too. Schwab started to head back to his cabin. He says that's when the bear attacked.
He latched onto my thigh, just kind of crunched down on it. I don't know why. I took my thumbs and a soft spot under here. I just pushed up as hard as I could. He let go, and then he grabbed my arm.
Schwab used his free leg to kick the bear off him. Schwab, now suffering from 2 bear bites, began to backpedal towards his cabin.
But then he came at me again, and this time I took the birch log and like a baseball bat, like a two-hander, and I whacked him across the snout. And it broke. He retreated again.
Schwab was now close to his cabin, but the bear was wearing him down.
And I began to yell for help and kept walking, and just as loud as I could, help.
Schwab's cries for help were answered. A group of contractors who were working on Schwab's cabin heard him and drove down the road to help.
When they pulled me into the truck, I was totally spent, emotionally and physically. They drove me to Kenora and met an ambulance on the way. And they took over from there.
Schwab suffered muscle damage from the bites on his arm and thigh. He also needed stitches for some of the wounds. Schwab has seen bears near his cabin before, but has never seen one act this aggressive, something he'll be mindful of in the future.
Don't take wildlife for granted. They're wild animals, and that's their domain. And this bear, he was just doing what bears do.
This bear scare hasn't deterred Schwab from hiking. It left him with a new perspective.
It's just a reminder to me of how thankful I am for life and how grateful I am to be alive.
Mike Arsenault, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The Centennial Botanical Conservatory and the Paramount Theatre have now been added to the city's Heritage Register. Council made the decision last night with minimal discussion. Placement on the registry doesn't give the buildings official heritage status, but it's the first step in that process. It does provide some additional protection against demolition. In recent years, there have been talks around replacing or repairing the conservatory. Last night's decision does not preclude Council from entertaining those options in the future.
If we place the conservatory on the registry, what implications would that have for its eventual replacement or repair?
Putting it on the registry has no implications for that. Placing that property on the registry gives it the protection of if a demolition permit were applied for. We would have then 60 days to consider whether we want to go ahead with designating that property or not, and the decision would be council's whether you go ahead with the designation.
There are currently 47 other properties on the Heritage Register awaiting for formal designation. 25 locations have already passed through that process and have officially been designated as municipal heritage properties.
A taste of extravagance will be on the menu as the St. Joseph's Foundation announced their plan today for an anniversary dinner to celebrate 40 years of St. Joseph's heritage. The dinner and gala will bring community members back to the Georgian Room, which at one time was the city's premier dining experience. A 5-course meal done similar to those of the 1980s will be served to guests who will also have a chance to browse through photos and mementos from the past 40 years. St. Joseph's Foundation Chair Sandra Sutherland Byers wants people to enjoy a trip down memory lane at the event this November.
I've attended weddings here, birthday parties. I had my bridal shower here. Many people in Thunder Bay have celebrated some amazing occasions here. We hope that that kind of memories bring them back to here on November 15th to celebrate with us and to remember what the Georgian Room was.
90 seats are available for the event, and tickets can be purchased at St. Joseph's Heritage or on the Foundation's website.
For the 13th year in a row, 4 organizations around Thunder Bay are joining forces to make sure everyone has a warm winter coat for the upcoming season. The annual Winter Coat Drive kicked off today and will run until December 20th. For the next 3 months, Gear Up for Outdoors is collecting gently used winter jackets to give to less fortunate residents in the city, with help from Shelter House, Grace Place, and Precious Bundles. People who donate will also receive 15% off a new insulated jacket and be entered to win one of 6 gift cards to the Keg restaurant. After doing this for more than a decade, officials with the Winter Coat Drive say the program is still desperately needed in the community.
Especially every year, it just gets more and more intense. The weather seems to be coming earlier, snow coming earlier, and it's really important to get the jackets out there as soon as possible.
The need is still there, so we still have people coming to our doors that don't have jackets or coats in the middle of the winter, and yeah, we want to keep people warm.
Each winter jacket should be gently used and washed before being dropped off at Gear Up for Outdoors on Alloy Place.
Thunder Bay's largest and latest rain garden is almost complete on the corner of Hinton Avenue and Blanchard Street. What used to be an open field is now part of the city's effort to help fight climate change in Thunder Bay. This rain garden will provide 375 cubic meters of new floodplain storage capacity, as well as pollen for bees, space for wildlife, and more. The project came with a price tag of $235,000, but 75% of that was covered by the federal and provincial governments. Project engineer Aaron Ward says there are a lot of things happening underground that the public can't see, which are helping the environment.
The site was built, all the water on the road and all the sand and pollutants as well just went straight to the river. Now anything that comes into the road, off the road rather, goes into an oil grit separator, which is an underground treatment device, and then goes into this rain garden where the water has a chance to soak into the ground and to be cleaned through natural filtration. And only when it overflows does it actually get to the river.
This site is expected to be fully completed in the next couple of weeks, and Ward says there are at least 500 more rain garden sites planned for the city of Thunder Bay.
It's a chance to have a little fun with your vehicle while supporting a great cause. Downtown Volkswagen kicked off its Pink Caps for Cancer campaign today. Throughout the month of October, a set of 4 of these pink tire caps is available for a minimum donation of $5. All proceeds support breast cancer treatment through the Northern Cancer Fund. The campaign, which was first launched last year, was created in-house by downtown Volkswagen employees.
To design a campaign that was obviously fun and whimsical, but more importantly, tangible in nature. Now, what I mean by that is obviously when you make an intangible donation, you feel great for the rest of the day. You usually forget about it later that day or the next morning. In this case, it is tangible. It sits on your wheel, whether it's a unicycle, a bike. We had a gentleman last year bring a wheelbarrow, which was pretty hilarious. And again, it goes towards a movement in the city where we find that people are at shopping centers. They're going to be at hockey rinks, grocery stores. You see the pink cap, it's just a conversation starter.
We're hoping this year to replace 2 cancer imaging workstations for our radiologists, and they'll be able to have better cancer imaging, so when they're looking at the pictures from the mammographies taken, they'll have a better opportunity with better picture quality to do their work.
Last year, the campaign raised more than $12,000 for breast cancer treatment.
Well, Fiona, sort of got a little